Well, hello everyone, welcome to 2CTV with some breaking news from the Middle East. The Israeli government and the Prime Minister Netanyahu have officially announced the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hezbollah of Lebanon. In this video, we're going to give you guys all the details that we have, the bullet points in terms of what's in the agreement, what are the consequences of this, what's going to happen to the remaining members of Hamas in Gaza, what's going to happen to the Islamic Republic of Iran and the IRGC minions, and what's going to happen to Hezbollah going forward. There's so much to cover in this live stream. Of course, if you're watching this, we will get your reaction live during the show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about Benjamin Netanyahu. He just made an announcement live on TV confirming the agreement that was primarily mediated by the Americans and a number of other countries as well who were involved with these talks. There was a lot of push and pressure on the Israeli government from the different types of groups, including obviously those who were displaced in the northern parts of Israel, families, and of course the others in terms of the political left, the opposition parties as well, who are now, by the way, the opposition leader is calling for a ceasefire deal with Hamas in Gaza as well, which is a stupid thing to do at this point, but we're going to talk about all this anyway. The Prime Minister came out to say that the war will not end until we achieve all its goals, including the return of the residents of the North home. I am completely committed to your security, the reconstruction of your communities, and your future. I am determined to do everything necessary to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. This is even more true today. For me, removing this threat is the most important task to secure Israel's future. Now, there are a number of areas to focus on. One is about the fact that some people say, is this weakness? Is this some sort of 3D chess? Because the angle from the PR team of the Israeli government and Netanyahu is Hezbollah, as we know it, is gone. They've gone back. They've been set back decades back. This is no longer a real threat. The other angle that Netanyahu has been focusing on during his speech was, we can now spend time focusing on the threat from the Islamic Republic of Iran. He said, I'm not going to get into details, but we are now going to be dealing with the Iranian regime. He also said that it's time to give the armed forces and the reservists some sort of break to come back home and regroup and everything else. A lot of people were worried, saying, does that mean that Hezbollah fighters are going to be regrouping and getting stronger than ever before? But that didn't really happen in Gaza when we had a ceasefire deal anyway. Hezbollah don't really have proper leadership. The Iranian regime can't fully focus on supporting them either because they have their own problems. So technically speaking, it might be a good idea right now for the Lebanese people and the Lebanese government to disarm Hezbollah. That's the only thing that I hope, we don't have the information, but I hope it was part of the discussion coming from the Israeli government. They should have also included the Lebanese government's obligations to go and disarm the Hezbollah side, because the United Nations didn't do anything over the last few years. Let's give you guys the information, the detail of this agreement, the ceasefire deal, and then we're going to talk about what happened minutes before this ceasefire was announced. Minutes before, the IDF went full out crazy against both in Lebanon and also in Syria. First things first, point number one, Hezbollah and all other armed groups in Lebanon will no longer carry out any more offensive actions against Israel. That's an obvious one. And I will say in return, Israel will not carry out any offensive military actions against any targets in Lebanon. That includes on land, air, and at sea. So that's the obvious part of any sort of ceasefire deal. Israel and Lebanon recognize the importance of the UN Security Council Resolution 1701. Obvious. These commitments do not negate the right of Israel or Lebanon to exercise their inherent right to self-defense. Which kind of means if Hezbollah somehow attack over the next few minutes or hours, then basically the ceasefire deal is gone anyway, but Israel is allowed to hit back. The official Lebanese security and military forces will be the only armed groups authorized to bear arms or deploy forces in southern Lebanon. This cannot be monitored. I can assure you it cannot be monitored. So basically they're saying, all parties, including the Americans, saying, all right, in Lebanon, southern parts of Lebanon, we can't really have any more Hezbollah fighters walking around with guns. Only the Lebanese army. How are you going to do that? They're not going to do that. We know they're not going to do that. The Lebanese army, it's their job to sort it out, but they haven't actually indicated. They sent any indication that they would do this. Any sale, supply and production of arms or arms-related materials to Lebanon will be under the supervision and control of the government of Lebanon. So essentially they're saying, going forward, for now, for the next few days, Lebanon should behave like a normal country. Lebanese government should govern Lebanon. If only we had that situation for the past few years, that would have been great. All unauthorized facilities involved in the production of arms will be dismantled. We'll see. All military infrastructure and positions will be dismantled as well, and obviously unauthorized weapons that are not in compliance will be confiscated. A committee acceptable to Israel and Lebanon will be established to monitor and assist in ensuring the implementation of these commitments. I'm still skeptical about how they're going to be able to do this, to go and dismantle Hezbollah. But I have a feeling that the Iranian regime will poke the bear and they will go back to fighting. Not necessarily directly between Hezbollah and Israel, but in terms of proxy wars anyway. Israel and Lebanon will report any possible violation to the United Nations. We're basically using the United Nations again as a mediator. Lebanon will deploy its officials and the security forces and military forces along all borders, crossing points, and the line defining the southern zone shown in the deployment plan. So this is good. This is a detailed plan to get the actual Lebanese army to stay around the border. That is common sense, because we don't trust bureaucrats to monitor, any committee to monitor things. But if you have the Lebanese army with their guns there, well, they have no other option but to actually keep the border safe. Israel will gradually bring its forces south of the Blue Line over a period of up to 60 days. So the key point is about the fact that it's 2 months in terms of the withdrawal. The United States of America will promote indirect negotiations between Israel and actual Lebanon to reach a recognized land border. This is becoming quite interesting because obviously there were expectations that Hezbollah will have to go up and move away from the southern territories. But at the same time, the northern border of Israel and the southern border of Lebanon, the chaotic situation is there are displaced people, as you guys know, the Israelis and the Israeli families who need to go back. And there have been still threats coming in over the last few hours because the Iranian regime didn't want this to happen. Warmongers didn't want this to happen because all the lobbies and everybody else wanted to continue the chaos. But obviously there's a lot of indications that with the return of Donald Trump, this is a game changer. And I'm guessing there have been conversations between Team Trump and Netanyahu's government to have some sort of plan, because on the surface it seems like this was brokered by the Biden-Harris administration, right? On the surface. But why didn't we have this before? There is clearly an indication that this is the prospects of obviously Trump returning, well, not the prospects, definitely coming back into power, and they already have long-term plans. So we would like to think that. We will find out what's going on. Now, over the last few hours, minutes before the announcement, because obviously they can still do whatever they want, the IDF went all out against both the Lebanese territory and the Syrian territory, hitting specific targets, which was actually, let's go to the video quickly. This is Lebanon. And we can also go to the video we have from Syria. This was again minutes before.
كأنه هون انفجار ما نعرف عن شو هاد. هون شو هاد يا لطيف. ليكو هون.
Yeah, so they knew the announcement was coming anyway, so the IDF have been given orders to go and finish off some of the remaining targets. Anyway, we don't know exactly how many people were eliminated. Netanyahu did confirm that around 20,000 terrorists and Islamists have been eliminated in Gaza, and so that was part of the speech that he made. We also can confirm that the United Nations agency in the Palestinian territory, or UNRWA, has now also announced the closure of its headquarters in East Jerusalem. Another victory for common sense. Ladies and gentlemen, goodbye, United Nations, you corrupt, useless organization. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get some quick reaction from the live chats. First super chat from Bamban for Dictator says, Maya, a lot of people in the chat are demanding to see the nation's favorite rabbit. It's been a while. They have to wait longer. Libel says, is this the first miracle of the Trump? Or the Donald, as I call him. But again, I'm hoping this is part of a longer plan and a deeper plan, rather than coming across as this is some sort of concession to send a message to the Iranian regime that we're going to negotiate. You cannot negotiate with terrorists. So hopefully this is, as Netanyahu himself said, Hezbollah, they don't really have the infrastructure. They're no longer a real threat. As long as he means it, as long as it's not just propaganda, it's fine. Don't trust Bambam for Dictator, he wants to eat him. Brilliant. Mike says, a nice career move, BB. Politically as well. Politically it was smart. In terms of geopolitically, in terms of what's going on in the region, as I said, I hope there is a longer plan. But overall, in terms of internal politics, it was quite smart. And he could take credit for it anyway, in terms of all the successes and the achievements by the IDF, and also get some brownie points from obviously the families in the northern parts of Israel, and also the families of hostages. Lilith says, which border to see? Please be clear. The border between Israel and Lebanon, northern parts of Israel and southern parts of Lebanon. That's the border we are talking about. Ghost Rider says, sorry Maya, but you're being upstaged by a rabbit who's actually not on the live stream, by the way. Libel says that the Trump never heard the Trump card. Really? All right. I'm still getting notifications, by the way. Let's see what else we can add to this. So part of this is quite interesting, because Benjamin Netanyahu also said during the speech that the ceasefire won't actually stop Israel from attacking Hezbollah. He said the duration of the ceasefire depends on what happens in Lebanon. We have an understanding with the United States. We are maintaining our full liberty to undertake military operations. If Hezbollah tries to attack us, if it arms itself, if it rebuilds infrastructure next to the borders, we will attack them. If they launch missiles, they dig tunnels, we will attack them. Which means, if he really means it, and it seems like he usually means it, it means that compared to what happened in Gaza about almost a year ago with the first the ceasefire deal and the hostages deal, which came across as it's the Israeli government making concessions when it came to Hamas, this time it seems like Hezbollah had no other options but to basically agree to anything that they could get in terms of a ceasefire deal. Because clearly, during the negotiations, the Israelis said what Netanyahu just announced. Clearly, that was part of the negotiations. That, yes, but we will keep an eye on it. The moment Hezbollah even armed itself or rebuild the infrastructure, we're going to come back. It's not the same as saying, if Hezbollah attacks us, we're going to attack back. Obviously, he also said that. But he also mentioned, any tiny move by Hezbollah, we will come back. So it seems like this time it was the Islamist side who didn't really have any other option but to agree to the deal. And obviously, again, part of his other argument was that we are now going to be focusing on the Iranian regime. And he said, I can't get into details, but that one, I don't know. It seems like a bit of a bluff or, I don't know, empty threat. We don't know. Jacob says, are you serious? Well, now you know that ceasefire means the demonic terrorists will have a break to regroup and do absolutely devastating at sign. So that's the whole thing. So Netanyahu's argument is that when they had the ceasefire in Gaza, there was a lot of fears that Hamas are going to regroup. Obviously, the IDF didn't allow that. This time, the public line is that we will be keeping an eye on even the tiniest movement, and then we're going to go and start attacking Hezbollah. Hezbollah don't really have the infrastructure to regroup anyway, but it would have been nice to put more pressure on the Lebanese government to finish up Hezbollah. They basically just asked the Lebanese government to keep an eye on Hezbollah activity around the border, just make sure they don't do anything. They don't get armed again. That's not enough. The Lebanese government should go around and arrest every single person who's part of Hezbollah. Just do it. That should have been part of the detailed plan of the negotiations, rather than just saying, well, the Lebanese army should really go around and sort things out. That's quite vague. And getting a committee between Israel and Lebanon, that's still... But overall, it's a smart move. Overall, if the plan is to actually focus on Iran, fine. But otherwise, it's just a bit of a, delaying the inevitable. All right. We have another super chat. Robert says, why no crypto donation link? Because we don't have a crypto donation link. What else do we have? Liz says, BB is Polish Jew. He's cool, no pressure. Hi, Mr. CC. Is that 2C or CC? That's a different person. You are probably the best source for news. Thank you for what you do so well. Thank you very much for that compliment. We shall try our best. But yeah, so this is the gist of it. Essentially, we will keep an eye on all the bullet points that we gave you, all the information, because again, some of it might be violated within the next few days, within the next few weeks, or maybe hours. And let's see which side will break it first. Because it's not going to last. This thing is not going to last. We'll find out, because otherwise Hezbollah are basically just surrendering. It's not really a good look for Hezbollah at this point. Don't forget that you only have a few days left to take advantage of our Black Friday discount. Join 2CTV Plus using the promo code Friday to get 50% off annual memberships. Go to 2ctvplus.tv. Check it out. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maya 2C, and we are the media.